This post explores words that you use that could be costing you customers. Nobody wants that from time and energy spent writing articles and doing podcasts. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I support you with marketing and sales strategies and help you to train midlife women with hormone balancing exercise prescription that gets them the energy and the vitality that they want and get you the business and the life that you want, full of freedom without being pushy, salesy, or sleazy. If you're interested, this episode has been brought to you by the Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist. And right now we're enrolling in a very special taking the course to become a specialist plus a 10-month mastermind that will help you brand, create content that makes you an influencer, and gain traction right away so that you can increase your profit, decrease your expenses, and have the kind of influence that you want to, no matter how you define success, whether it's by a certain revenue or working a certain hours of the week or having the freedom not to. I will put the link in the show notes, but hurry, we stop enrollment by the end of December or when we reach full. All right, we're going to dive right into this. This is one of my favorite topics. So I actually love copywriting and text and the power of words, whether speaking or writing. But I want to say this to you. What we want, in part, with the way we use words when we write them, speak them, and I'm talking about all things, emails, blogs, articles for other people, as well as videos that you might put on YouTube or within your programs, and any way that you communicate. What we want with our customers is a common enemy. For all of us in 2020, it's been COVID-19. For the first time in the history of the world, we all have common enemy. No matter who you might blame or back or what you do or you don't agree with about how it's been handled, we are just people. We're daughters and sons, parents, siblings, significant others who care about the health and the well-being of our own. It doesn't matter if somebody speaks your language or they're across the street or across the globe. We've all experienced a moment in time connecting to others. If all workplaces communicate their mission so much that teams hold not just the mission, but the obstacles to achieving that mission permanently, or they take them personally, businesses would thrive. If entire teams come together fighting the same cause, as opposed to being pitted against each other in competition, there would be fewer internal rivals and probably more job satisfaction. And if you can harness a villain, be it age or bone loss or cancer or sedentary jobs or misinformation about fitness or nutrition for midlife women, then you can become a part of a team with your audience and your tribe. You fight with them instead of preaching or teaching. It feels very different. Teaching without intention can feel like judgment. So if you instead are sending the message to them or to the cancer or the menopause or the stigma, then you're fighting the battle with your audience. So read or listen to these two headlines, depending on whether you're actually somebody who needs to read it and see it and you're at the show notes or you're just listening here. So first one is why what you're doing is not working for midlife women. Okay. Now, let me redo the second one. How to harness the power of misleading information. Which one of those sits or feels better to you? Let me read them again really quickly. First one, why what you're doing is not working for midlife women, or I might say for your midlife clients. So like I'm talking to you. And then the second one is How to harness the power of misleading information. Can you feel a difference? So, if I did a good job of changing those up and illustrating them, in the first one that I read or spoke, there's a hook and it's more negative. Like, hey, you're doing it wrong, stupid. I didn't need to say that. Don't make this mistake, right? There's definitely something to be said for that kind of a title or headline, and there's an appropriate point or place to use it. A large percent of the population would be more likely to click on that one than something just giving them content, like here's an article for you, but it may not pique their interest enough to open. In the second example I gave you, however, there's no blame on you if you're the reader and you're the trainer. It's just how you can harness the power of misleading information. So if you're already some trainer, some coach who is totally aware there's tons of misleading health and nutrition information out there, and you're like, yeah, how can I do that? Then you're already, and I'm screening you somewhat, right? So I want somebody who's a little bit more in tune with, they've got their finger on the pulse. They know there's tons of misleading information out there, and you clearly are not one of those putting more of it out there. You're somebody who wants to fight the good fight, and that's who I want to reach in that particular title. So it still suggests that something is wrong, but it implies I'm going to give you a secret to be part of the solution instead of telling you that you're part of the problem. So there's very different nuance, even though that subject line, both of those are titles for the same blog or podcast content. It's which one speaks to you more? Which one would you click on first? And all my intention is here is not to tell you that one of those is better than the other. It's just that you'll appeal to two different types of people depending on your subject line. So be aware of that. So this post title, True Confessions, I'll let you see behind the curtain. There's a time and a place for either a negative or a positive title. And the best way for you to decide which you want to use is to test it. I've found many times that say using 3 biggest mistakes and whatever would follow for the title will get me more clicks, more opens to an email, for instance, than the 3 biggest secrets. Kind of surprising to some people, but don't take my word for it or my experience because your audience may be different than mine slightly. Don't guess. So just start testing, even if only by looking at your statistics on traffic to certain videos or to blogs and or to ways that you've chosen to post and caption things in maybe your Facebook or your Instagram. What's more popular? The negative things on, avoid this or 3 mistakes, or, is it the positive things like 3 tips for better warm-ups? So it's important that you start looking at this, but I'll let you in on a secret. I considered variations of 2 subject lines. I narrowed it down to 2 for this post. And here's what they were. Number 1, are the words you use attracting more customers? And number 2, are the words you use costing you customers? So clearly, you know which one I chose. And here's why. Because it's like fear of missing out. It's like, oh my gosh, am I making mistakes? And, you and I, we have a really busy day, right? Even though it's like, yeah, I don't have enough traffic. For sure, I don't have enough traffic. But one is like, oh, I can read that later. Like attracting more customers, other words helping me do that. There's not something that is magnetic enough to get me to read that. But if I am making mistakes with certain words, like maybe there's an implication that you and I both would have clicked on that hoping, okay, are you going to tell me like there's 3 words that never ever use these because it gets a negative response or it costs me customers? So there's a little bit more sense of urgency missing out that I may be making a mistake. So Do you feel it? When you hear it, hear me say it, or you're reading it in the show notes, pay attention to how things feel for you and realize I can't give you the answers. I can give you what I would think will be the answers, because if you're targeting midlife women as well, we have like minded customers. But this is where, say, if you're a fitness center or you're a trainer who loves to work with a lot of different age ranges and ability levels, it will be very hard for you to write subject lines and titles that appeal to all those people. You really need to narrow it down and be thinking about one person when you write them. So when you're in doubt, run your titles by some of your customers. Come up with at least 10, if not 20 variations of your titles and narrow it down to a few good titles. Use a tool like Headline Analyzer. And you can find that it's a co-scheduler, but if you Google Headline Analyzer, it'll come up. I'll try and put that in the show notes, and that'll tell you how well you're doing. Be conscious of keywords in your title that you want to, again, then use those throughout your post for SEO or search engine optimization, which just means then if your ideal customer is searching for those words, they've asked a question of Google with those words in it, your article, your content will come up. Okay, question, time to get real. Did I just lose you with SEO and the importance of keywords? If you want some step-by-step support for doing this, treating your content like a part of a real business that attracts real customers that pay you real money, I will link in the show notes about how to learn more about the 10-month Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist program. It's open right now as I'm doing this live and posting it for a limited number of trainers and or health coaches or those wanting to start, but only for a limited time. So we're all going to start and go through together learning how to influence, create your brand so you are unique and attracting unique customers, even though we may all be attracting midlife women. Trust me, there are 1.2 billion of them in the world. By 2030, there's enough to go around. And by changing their lives, we can change the lives of so many more that they touch. So if you want to leverage your content to stand out among all the noise that's online now, click it. All right. So let's explore some words that are dripping with emotion and how you can use them. And I'll share some examples of how I have used them recently or could, and you could too. So you want to avoid words you use costing you customers with these kinds of examples. So the first one that I'm going to share with you is gambling. And here's where I used this most recently. In my TEDx talk, I literally use this concept as I reveal the statistics on research and so little of it pertaining to women in midlife or at any stage of their life. And I point out that up until now, if we didn't know this and we didn't know to ask, or that a woman didn't, then she was gambling with really bad odds. So again, I'm doing the reveal. I'm doing the listener a favor by revealing what's happening and making her a little emotional, a little upset at the thought that, are you kidding me? Like I was betting on this fitness program, this trainer, these odds, and it was wrong. So that's one example. Another word that is really strong as far as emotion goes is crap, right? And it's politically correct to say that as opposed to shit, excuse my French, that you and I might say if we were just talking casually. And sometimes I've been known to say that other times because, sometimes you just have to use the word that gets the attention. But crap is kind of politically correct. It still fits with a lot of people and they get exactly what you mean. This I used, but actually I used it in a title of a podcast because it had been used. And I wished that I'd thought about it first by the author of a book. and he was the expert guest on my podcast. Sit-ups are stupid, crunches are crap. And so in doing that, here's what we did, right? That title's so smart. And you can see why I wish it was mine, because I feel the exact same way. And I've been saying that since I was 26 and had just recovered from a back injury and become a back pain expert, not knowing that I ever wanted to do that. But here's the thing. When we say sit-ups are stupid and crunches are crap, we say those things are wrong. Not you're stupid if you're doing them. And, you don't have any idea what you're doing. It's that we're pointing at something benign, not a person, not saying, hey, you stupid, stop doing that. I mean, it's dumb that you're doing that, right? So the use of the word and having it carefully crafted so it's around something else, like that is the enemy, again, the common enemy, not the person not pointing them like that. Next word is lies. I used this one very recently, and here's how. Everything women in menopause learned about exercise may be a lie. That was the title of my TEDx talk, and I've used it again for blog posts and for podcasts. And the word lies conveys a really strong emotion, and certainly it brings us together with our tribe. If I'm revealing lies to you that you didn't yet know about, and then I'm going to give you solutions for revenge against those people, that source of those lies in the content, that's valuable. A phrase this time instead of a word is not telling the truth. So I haven't been telling the truth. I was doing it wrong. We've all been doing it wrong. That again, I'm calling back to my TEDx talk, but those were words. And I said them almost verbatim, what I just told you. But really, I didn't say, we haven't been telling the truth. I wasn't telling the truth. But what I did say is I was doing it wrong. We've all been doing it wrong. And I implied later very strongly that I've been teaching it wrong for 15 years, using guidelines, position statements, but not really for midlife women was I telling them the whole story because I didn't yet realize it. So these words, some exactly and some implied, they were part of that talk. Let me also make something clear. You don't create a talk and then you move on and you create another talk. So this TEDx talk I did over a year ago now, but my signature story in that talk, I will be talking about this, writing about it, doing videos about it for years. Your signature story is your signature story. So you go to, say, a Bruce Springsteen concert, or maybe you don't, I do. You expect or you demand to hear Born to Run, right? James Taylor had better play Shower the People when I go to a concert. I know they may both weave in new content, but audiences want and they need repetition. We want to hear those favorites. Even if we've heard it before, we want that reminder. So before you start talking about a topic, make sure that, you can see yourself in 5 and 10 years still talking about it. And by then, sure, you may be talking about other things also, but you never will lose what was true once. Another word is betrayed. I've used phrases like betrayed by your body and betrayed by the fitness industry and even the medical community in blogs and in presentations. That word evokes strong emotion, right? So it's not the same as if you'd been betrayed by a spouse, but betrayal by anyone or anything can make your content memorable or remarkable. And to stand out, to be something like liked, shared, commented, that is remarkable. Literally, that's what you want. Okay, don't tell you. It's like what they don't tell you. That little phrase, golden. This one would be easy to insert into a post or a sentence or just a phrase when you're talking to people. When I talk about stress with clients, especially when I had first published You Still Got It, Girl, I would point out that, though our parents all probably had the sex talk with us, they didn't tell you. What they didn't tell you was that we were going to feel stressed, right? They didn't give us the ways to abstain from stress they didn't give us a morning after solution if we did have stress. There wasn't the stress talk like the sex talk. So, in talking about it like that, like what they didn't tell you is, it's not your fault, is basically what I was saying. We just didn't have the tools. So if you're stressed out, you've got adrenal fatigue, you're getting that belly fat, well, it's no wonder. We just didn't know. And then I made them to think back to that moment with the way I gave them an analogy. To that moment in fifth grade when they were in their health session where the parents had to come to school and talk about puberty and all the embarrassing things, I kind of made a personal connection with them because if we were talking, they were listening to me in a podcast and they went back to that moment in elementary school, we were there together. Another word is misleading. I'm about to publish a post for my Flipping 50 community about misleading fitness studies and poll results. It's all about the annual fitness trends, right? And there's a poll given every November, but I do this every year, and yet it always is a hot topic among both fitness professionals and midlife women seeking intelligent fitness tips because I am not just sharing the results, I am sharing with them how misleading those results are and the way that other journalists and writers use those results. So think about how you can look at, say, 5 of your recent titles, recent video titles, recent subject lines for emails, or recent articles or blog post titles. See how you could have put an emotional hook in that title. If it's missing, if you read it and it's just kind of like, meh, if that were on a magazine cover title, or first, would it even have made the magazine cover title? Another great word is mythbuster. You can use this one until I'm from a small Midwestern town. I'm about to reveal that, but you could use that one until the cows come home. It's commonly used in titles, and it's almost always a winner. Just be sure, just don't overuse it. Or if it's not emotionally charged enough with other words in the title. So you want to target something at a narrow audience. So you and I we want to read a headline, but if it doesn't speak to us, it's not about me specifically, and I don't know it's going to be, I'm probably not going to pick it up. So here's examples. So if I say weight loss myth busting, that could be a title of a blog or podcast. But would you click on that if you were like, I don't have very much time? Because it could be targeted at 20-year-olds, right? Could be targeted at people who just had a baby. Let's say women, because that would be true. Next up, okay. Debunking weight loss myths. So just another way to say myth buster without exactly saying it, but similarly, it doesn't really tell me who it's for. They're both potential titles, and yet they're kind of generalistic. So if you want to get very specific, and you don't just want some traffic that clicks to it and then realizes, oh my gosh, she's talking to somebody else, not to me, and then bye-bye. That's called your bounce rate. It's like, how long are they on your page or your site before they leave? You don't want that, okay? But what if you change that kind of a title to menopause weight loss myths? Or you change it to debunking the menopause weight loss myths in 3 recent fitness magazine articles. Now, I'm kind of interested because what if you are reading online articles or you pick up that fitness magazine at the end of the grocery store aisle while you're waiting 6 feet apart, and you pick up Shape magazine or Runner's World or Female Runners, and you're like, okay, did I just read something that I need to be aware of? Or what is somebody saying about the article I just read and believed? So now you've got something specific targeted at a very specific, maybe a niche even audience. And it's timely with a little urgency because you said 3 recent fitness magazine articles. So inevitably, somebody in this post looking at it might look at the date. And 3 years from now, maybe it won't get quite so much urgency to it. But if you release it now, between now and probably February, it's still very relevant. There's 2 more empowering words that I want to share with you. So hang in there. These last 2 words, and by no means is this list an exhaustive list. It's just to get you started and realize how powerful your words are if you choose them correctly. You may realize you have emotional words in your podcast emails and conversations already. This podcast is just going to give you more of them to use strategically, and realize I have given you like the top of the iceberg. There are so many more words that you can use depending on what do you think? Do you want to make a reader angry, like at an outside source, not at you, so that you can then create an ally from them? Do you want to make them angry, make them mad, make them sad, make them regretful, make them curious? I mean, there are so many different ways you can choose to go. But reclaim is a great word, especially if you've just taken something away from them or they realize something has been taken away. Like if suddenly they can't actually trust those fitness magazines anymore, then they can reclaim maybe a sense of confidence about what they're reading. And maybe you're going to teach them about how to read studies in PubMed, or be sure that there are credible sources quoted in articles they read from now on. Here's an example of a title: How to Reclaim the Muscle You've Been Losing Since Age 30. That would pique curiosity for me if women are like, wait a minute, I've been losing muscle, because you're both kind of piquing curiosity and giving them the solutions. You're hinting that inside this article, you're telling me, how do I get that muscle back? Here's an example of using reclaim in the body of an article or email. And you can do that so many ways. But one is you can reclaim that muscle, and doing so boost your metabolism. That might be the opener of a podcast or a blog article. And then you'll go into, here's 10 ways you can reclaim that muscle, how to build it. Another way to say reclaim, and another phrase, very short one, is get back. So get back. Clearly something has been lost. It's another way to use the word or the feeling and try them both out. Reclaim or get back. See which one resonates both with you and with your audience members. And eventually you're probably going to use them both, because remember, you're going to be writing and talking, creating video about your topic for a really long time. You're going to have a long and prosperous career, my friend. So you want to use different words to appeal to different customers as you do it, and to freshen up content over time. There you are. Some specific examples of how to avoid words you use costing you customers, and how to actually turn that around and start using words that attract them. It is not too late. So remember that. It's not too late to go back and change your YouTube title videos. If it's not getting traction, right? And I've got good content here that can really help people, go revise it. See if it doesn't change the traffic. And if you really haven't had any traffic to your website articles, and you're sure SEO is something you've never thought about, I wouldn't worry about going in and changing it. From here on out, think about your title and the keywords in that title, and how many times you're repeating those keywords in your article. The longer the blog or the post, the more times you have to repeat those words. You want to include them at the subhead line as well as in your paragraph. So repeating them is really important. But here's the other thing. Once you find you've used SEO, you've found your keywords, you've repeated those in your topic, in your meta descriptions and your subject line, don't go back in and change them, because that'll hurt your SEO. So there you go. I want to show you something. For now, that's all I want you to do. Go back and look at your content and titles. Are you repeating the words that you want to be found for? For instance, the words you use costing you customers is the phrase that I'm using in this post. All right, did you see what I just did? I found a way to insert that phrase one more time. And because this is a fairly lengthy post, I needed to do that. I have to get it in there enough times so it helps my SEO. So last but not least, really this works in two ways. The words you use and the words you don't use could both be costing you customers. And it's no surprise because, hey, if you've got a family, whether it's kids of your own, a spouse, or parents or siblings, it's how you say anything that gets you the results you want, right? So try on everything. Read your Instagram posts, read your Facebook posts. Do they sound preachy and teachy? Instead of the motivating and the inspiring you're probably shooting for. That's great homework. And then as you begin to weave in some of those emotion-laden words, you'll begin to engage even more. And trust me, sometimes you go back and you read those articles and the titles or see your videos and the titles or those Instagram and Facebook posts. If you don't cringe, something's wrong. So know that you will, because you should be starting before you actually feel like you're 100% ready, because too many people just wait till it's going to be perfect. And it never is. And you're only going to be able to correct something if you start something. You can't be a great golfer until you start golfing. And so it is with anything that you do. So let yourself make the mistakes. And if you've got some content already put out, it's perfect if it's not perfect, because now you can see I know more than I did yesterday, and you can start improving it. I hope that was very helpful. And I hope you feel like right now you've got a little homework that you could literally go start improving on right now. And I'll put a link to the resources that I mentioned in this podcast in the show notes, as well as to a couple other podcasts or blogs posts that might be of interest to you. But listen, my friends, time is marching on. And more trainers, more health coaches are online. So get on this. The content that you put out is one thing, but now making it better, optimizing it is really what you want to be doing. All right. What are you waiting for? The world needs you more than ever. You'll find the show notes at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/costing.